Hey everyone, back for another episode, and today we're going to talk about how you climb yourself up, and some fortunate things can happen. We drop down to rock bottom, but how we can claw ourselves right back out of there and back at where we really want to be, empowering ourselves. So watch your way through. Today I'm joined by Henri Ghijben. Have I got it right? Yes.
Perfect.
Pleasure to have you on, Henri. Henri's I met you on Zoom, so we haven't met in person yet. Last month with our mastermind program, and I was just so inspired by your story, which you're going to share a bit today. And I think it's, we've talked about how we can help and provide, support for others, and how our journeys can, not inspire as well, because it's such an inspirational story that you've shared with me then and just before we come on. So before we let's get started. Just in a few words, Henri, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Okay, yeah, my name's Henri. I'm from Southampton. I run a tree surgery business and have done for 13 years. I've now got into property world and doing property investing. I was born in Ipswich. I moved to Southampton when I was 14. And my father, he run one-man bands. My parents run a restaurant, and they were always pushing me to get into business, and that's how I ended up getting into it at 24 years old.
Oh wow! So, and you started from you said a 10 grand loan in your garage or shed or whatever it was, and you bought this and built this, up to like 47 staff at one point, was it?
Yeah, it went pretty big. So yeah, I started. Left school, failed all my GCSEs, didn't have a clue what to do. Careers advisor said to me, you should go and do customer service because I like water sports and socializing, as you do. So I went and did that, worked in lots of different office jobs, worked for the bank, worked for different sales companies. And then in my early 20s, decided to leave and go and be a tree surgeon. My best friend Toby said, we've got some jobs over here, do you want to come and work? And as soon as I got into that, I was like, okay, well, this is where I could start a business, because my dad always said to me, son, I really wish I started a business earlier. He was in his mid-30s. So he said, if the one thing you can do, start your own business. So I told everyone, I'm quite a vocal person, and I've always been told, if you want something, you just ask for it or say it, say what you want. So everyone I met, I kept saying, I want to start my own business. I want to start my own business. So the company I was working for went under. And one of their clients a couple of months later phoned me up, and his name was John Parrington, said, Henri, you said you wanted to start your own business. Now I've lost that company as my customer. I need someone to do our tree work. So do you want to come and do it? So we went and met in a pub in Four Marks, which is a village in Hampshire, and we chatted about it. And I said, well, I've got terrible credit, because he said, you need to get a loan, you need to start this business, and we'll give you work. So he actually said, look, I'll get the loan for you, which was amazing, because I was 24 years old, didn't really know anything about anything. And then we started to grow it from there. For the first 3 or 4 years, we ran it from a garage. We rented a masonette, me and my wife, Sarah, who I'm still with now. We've been together 17 years. It was £40 each a week, all bills included. This was just before the 2008, 2007 Northern Rock banking kind of crash. So we had 3 months of really good work. And then suddenly we just fell off the cliff after Christmas when the recession really kicked in. But fortunately, the garage we were running it from was £50 a month. Our bills were really cheap, and we could get by. My ambition was very low at that time, and we kind of bumbled along for a few years, and we were just working for this guy John. And then we decided to get married. And then as soon as you start getting married, you start thinking about the future, and that's when my ambition started to grow. And we won a contract with SSE, and the business went from 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 47, and things were good at about 30. And I should have stopped at about 30. Right. We always wanted a business that was a good culture. I'd worked before I worked for myself. I'd worked for some terrible bosses in sales. I had a terrible tree surgery boss, people that would shout and scream at you. I had one guy in sales who was a bit of a bully, really, really talk down to you. And I always said to myself, if I start my own business, I want to treat people how I want to be treated. Staff, when you come to work, you commit to work, and you go and turn up and you do a good day's graft, whether it's in office, whether it's labor intensive. And a lot of companies' attitude is, well, I pay them, and so that's enough. And I don't think it does. People need gratitude. People need, to see that they're part of something, part of a journey. They're developing themselves. They can see part of it. So we've always looked after people. So yeah, we grew it, and then unfortunately it all went wrong and it went under.
So that was not too long ago, really, was it? Was that 2009?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah, 2 months ago. So yeah.
Yeah. So you got it to a turnover of 2 million, which is freaking crazy in my head. So amazing. And before we come on, you said you talked, you like to win, you're competitive, and I think that's I do think that's a bonus. I guess like what you might have said is like, yeah, it's great until we kind of get knocked back down. So we got to the top of the mountain, and then obviously things for whatever reason happened, and it went the other way. So did it just suddenly just fall like this deck of cards, or was it a gradual? Were there signs or?
No, it was gradual. My daughter's 5 now, and when she was born, business was really good. We had about 30 staff, and I spent quite a lot of her first year working a few days a week, and I wasn't having to work full time in the business, and that was quite a big milestone. I remember it. When my son Ned is 2.5, when he was born, so 2.5 years ago. I don't remember his first year because it was the opposite. I was doing 12, 14-hour days. The whole thing was falling apart. So it was really tough. And it kind of happened the way the reason why it happened. There's lots of reasons I could spout off, but I was not good enough. I had this blockage from school where when I failed all my GCSEs, I said, I'm not going to do learning. I'm just going to work really hard. My parents gave me this great work ethic. My dad got me a paper round job at 12. He lied to the local agent to say that I was 13. I started my own car washing business at weekends with a bucket and sponge. Every bit of money I earned, I had to earn. And it was a great work ethic. But when you've got 47 staff, working really, really hard doesn't cut it. At the end of the day, I was steering the ship and I wasn't good enough. And about a year before the business went under, I met a guy called Jeff Shrimpton, who was a business coach, and he was a really good coach. And he said to me, Henry, you need to start learning about business. And I said, I don't really do learning. With any course? He said, no, you can read some books. I said, no, I don't read books. He went, look, if I'm going to coach you, you need to read books. And he gave me 1 Minute Manager, Meets the Monkey. And I started reading these books and realizing that when I was reading, especially that book, I suddenly went, oh, I'm the guy with the cape who's coming in. Every time something needed to be done, say a trailer reversing in the yard, I go, I'll do it. Something needs to be done in the yard. Oh, I'll do it. Oh, my computer's broken. I'll do it. And that was great for my ego, because then people would go say to me, there's a reason why you're the boss, Henry. There's a reason why you're the boss. And I'd be like, yeah, there is a reason why I'm the boss. Yeah, because I'm really good. And what I had no idea at the time is, because I had no business knowledge, that I was just disempowering all my staff. Now I look back at it, every holiday, and I won't list everything that went wrong. There was huge complaints. There was car incidents. There was staff incidents. But every holiday, the company would implode. And I would have the most stressful holidays because I'd be on the phone. I had to talk to a client in New Zealand. It cost me 45 quid from Greece. And all these things go wrong. Now I know, I look back at it and go, it's because every time I went away, there was nobody to do the stuff for them. They went and did the work, but I was completely disempowering them all the time. So basically what I'm getting to is for when the business was small, I could do everything for everyone and it wasn't a problem. But when it got to 47 staff, I couldn't do it for everybody. And I wasn't good enough. And I started learning a year before, but when the coach came in, unfortunately, the business was already in dire straits, and we didn't think. It's crazy to say this, and people are going to go, "What?" when they hear this, but I didn't even know what a cash flow forecaster was. And I've been running the business 9 years, and we got it to 1.4 million at that point. I didn't really know how to read a P&L. I didn't know a lot of things. I just worked really hard. I'd looked after my team, and that's why I had a really good team that wanted to work hard for me. But I was also disempowering them. I wasn't managing them properly. So ultimately, what it comes down to is I wasn't good enough. I think that Jim Rohn, he says a really good saying, like, don't wish life was easier, wish you were better. And I realise now that I needed to grow myself. So when it all went under, I had to be accountable and just stare down the barrel of it. It's a really tough thing to stare down the barrel at, looking back and not blaming other people and going, that was my fault. You know, the reason why it's gone under is me. And that was a tough thing. But ultimately, I think that's what helped me back up again.
Yeah, definitely. And I can relate to loads of what you're saying, because it's hard sometimes as well. Because handing over tasks and probably as someone that's built it, maybe you can do it better, maybe you can't, but it's just how it is. And sometimes I just got to say, no, just go and find out. I have this thing with the staff. I forget to do it sometimes, but I'll say, there's this thing on your phone, it's called Google. You have to just ask that if you're a bit stuck. I end up doing all the sorts of things, and I don't even know what I'm doing. But
yeah,
I just know I will find a way. So it's worked out. Yeah, I totally relate to those things. But I love what you said, and it is like everything that happens, we're responsible for as the business owner. And if and I guess because you're now building a new team, like hopefully that ethos passes over. It's we all take that accountability together. So my phone was going off then. They should know I'm on the stream. What's going on? So yeah, no, I love that. So obviously that was a massive challenge. And again, when things don't go our way, and I've been there for different reasons, and sometimes it just feels, what on earth is now? My life has just flipped upside down, and it has a knock-on effect to other things. And I know you're very passionate about mental health. It must have affected you.
Huge, yeah. I mean, I was overeating, over drinking, me and my wife. I mean, I promised my wife that we'd never have to sell our family home. I used to say, don't worry. I work really hard. I was clueless, really. We're never going to have to sell our family home. And I remember the day I had to go and tell her we're going to have to sell our family home. And, 2 young children at home. We of course argued, but because I didn't want to argue in front of the kids and I didn't want it to affect them, quite often after the business went under, I spent quite a lot of time on friends' sofas, because I didn't want to be around the kids. I mean, I am a very fortunate human being that my wife is as committed, loyal, and maybe stubborn that she stayed with me. And we've been together 17 years. And I mean, I'm forever thankful of that, because we got through it. And the year after, once things got better, I said to her on our anniversary, I said, if we could get through last year, we can get through anything. But yeah, my mental health was all over the place. I was stressed. I was anxious. I was constantly checking emails, staff emails, bank accounts. We had invoice finance, and I don't know if you ever come across invoice finance, but it's factoring. It's ruthless. They basically loan you out 75% of all the invoices that are owed to you. It's like an overdraft, but they've got you by the balls, and they can just pull money. And I remember that every time we had to pay wages, we used to do it by the skin of our teeth. And because my most important thing was paying the staff, I never wanted to not pay the staff. Like, I didn't even pay myself. I remember my coach said to me, Henry, you're doing all this work and you're earning what a janitor's were earning. I remember friends going to me, you must be loaded. I'm thinking, no, I'm taking £1,000 a month home, £1,000 a month. My wife is so good with a shopping bill. We were living on a shoestring for a couple of years. We were good. And then when things were bad, we were on a shoestring. But it definitely taught me a lot about material things, and that constant want for material things and gratification and all those things, because now I'm delaying gratification a lot more, because I used to go, I've had a really strong day, so I'm going to go and eat loads of food, or I'm going to go and buy myself an iPhone, or I'm going to go and do this. And you realize that those material things really don't actually give you that. They might do for a minute. You get a new iPhone, you're like, oh yeah, it's the same as the last one. I've got an extra camera. It's got an extra camera. And then that feeling disappears. And when I hit rock bottom, that made me realize that my why was all wrong, because my dream board used to have my family in the middle of it, but it used to be full of Ferraris, Porsches, nice things. And I realize now that those things will, everyone still wants those nice material things. I'm not going to lie and say I wouldn't like to have a nice car and all those sorts of things, but you buy a Ferrari, or you start with an Audi R8, then you want a Porsche, then you want a Ferrari, and then before you know it, you want a Bugatti Veyron, and then you want an F1 car, because that feeling of wanting never goes away. And my opinion is that when you start giving and giving back to people, that's a feeling that lasts forever. When you go and help people, that feeling will make you sleep happy at night. you know, the Ferrari still will, you know, seeing that, you know, money does make you happy. It's a truth. But if you can mix that with helping people, and I sort of realized that when I hit rock bottom, and that helped me pick myself back up again to realize that I had stronger whys than I did before. It wasn't just all about money. It's about the journey and trying to help people, serve people.
Definitely, Henry. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. So in a way, you were kind of going for some grief, and it's a grief of where life had changed for you from what you had and there. And there's like a grief curve, and it kind of, I've said this before, I get on camera. So it kind of goes like, why? Kind of goes up like this. So I had to get used to being on my So at the bottom, it's actually, it's not, depression's not at the bottom. It's just on the way out of it. So you go through like denial stages and everything. And one of those things is for coming back out of it. And you have to go through all these emotions, and it can be like this, and it can be like that one day. And that's how it was for me anyway. For when my life had changed, really, it was like a grief of life's changed for whatever reason. And then part of coming out is finding new meaning, and I think helping people, making new connections, and that's part of it. And then that's it, you find that way out, then you're able to go forward, and you're the same person but in a new mold, I guess. That's probably the best way of describing it. I feel like sometimes, I don't know if you feel the same way, it's like you've lived many lives.
100%, definitely. Yeah. And you know, you were right in what you're saying, because when the business was going under, it was going under for about 8 months. I didn't drink for the whole time. I was focused. I was getting up early and I was focused. It went under. We then restarted straight away. And I still kept, out of 30 staff that it was at that point, because we'd had let a few go over a year. We then went down to 12, and I kept Sophie and Mike, who had been with me for years, and they basically ran the business for me after that, because when it was going under, I was fine. It was actually after. That's when I crashed. Yeah. And for 3 months, up until 3 or 4 months, I was a mess. I was still going into work, but they were carrying me and the company, because I just couldn't get my head out of my ass. I couldn't do it. I couldn't see anything. And they really helped me up through that. And I think you're right. You know, you go through that it does go like that, the kind of depression. And I knew things were going wrong, and I was trying to do the best. And I had to sort of step away slightly to get my headspace. And I knew things weren't going right, because we were obviously spending time on sofas. And then the beginning of the year, I said, we had Christmas, and I said, right, that's it. I'm going to quit drinking for 3 months. I do it most years. I quit drinking for a few months, because I've actually looked, when I analysed my performance as a business owner, I realised I've made some really bad decisions on a Monday quite often after a heavy weekend of drinking. I had that fuzzy head, and I was like, well, you know, what do I need to do? And I thought, what do I need to do to win? Like talking about earlier about losing, I'd lost, and I was a wounded bear, and I hate losing. I really do. But as I said before, I've had mindset coach say, "How does that serve you?" And I'm like, when I'm winning, it's great, but when you're losing, it's terrible. But ultimately, that desire to win has pushed me on, and so I thought, I need to quit drinking alcohol. I also need to start doing business networking. I need to build this company back up. So I spent the year completely just focused on sales and marketing, getting new clients, doing networking. And the networking, I went into the first room, I was an anxious mess, and I'm quite a confident person when it comes into meeting people. And being part of that networking group helped me. And that was the new phase of my life. I'd gone from this guy who was all pent up, wouldn't take help from anybody. You know, before the business went under, my wife tried helping me, and I'd always push her away and say, no, I'm right. To being more of an open person, to learning, to not being fixed, to wanting to suck up information, wanting to learn everything I can to better myself. And obviously this was that. Now we're now into last year, which was pandemic. So we then had 3 months sober, went into pandemic, and straight away I remember thinking it's all over. We were still an insolvent business, because I'd actually carried over debt from the old business, because there were some local suppliers who I didn't want them to go down after me. There's guys one guy in Eastleigh that I owed 30 grand to. There's another guy literally down the road that I owed 30 grand to. There's other people, and I thought, I don't want these people to suffer because I've made the mistakes. We rolled debt over, so the business was still insolvent. So the pandemic happened, and I was like, it's all over. But fortunately, Boris said, if you can't work from home, then you can go to work. And we were doing health and safety tree works, so we just carried on, fortunately. And 2020, yeah, it was, because if I mean, I don't know whether I'd be here saying this now with a, you know, because I was having talks with my coach at that point that we were going to have to just pull the plug on it all. If obviously we went to lockdown and we couldn't go to work, and just sit for 6 months and restart in 6 months once it's all blown over, which now we realise it wasn't 6 months. Anyway, you know, but 2020 ended up being our best year ever, with less staff. With 16 staff, we were doing better numbers than when we had 47, and we started paying ourselves.
Yeah.
And then that's what gave me the stepping stone to get to here. But that was all. I mean, the only way I got out of this was being accountable and not blaming other people, and learning and becoming better, and just turning up every day and doing at least one really important thing every day. I know people talk in business, talk about overwhelm, you know, and big lists and things like that. And I think sometimes we can just overwhelm ourselves. But I think if we can break life down into just day by day and turn up and do one thing that's going to get you to where your goal is, and you've got those goals and you know where you're going, then it's huge. And I think 90 days can change your life. I think if you go and see a personal trainer, he'll say to you, give me 90 days, not 2 weeks. A lot of people go on a diet for 2 weeks and then look in the mirror and go, well, nothing's happened, so they give up. If you give a personal trainer 90 days, he will make a difference. If you give a business 90 days, if you're depressed, if you've got major issues in your life, if you've got a job you don't like, if you apply for loads of jobs in 90 days, you'll probably get a new job. You know, 90 days can change it. And that's kind of the way I worked, in day by day, and then 90-day cycles. And it worked. It did. So,
yeah, sorry, I love that. I love that 90 days, and it's so true. When I was teaching martial arts, and I'd say we only got to make that 1% change. If a boat changes course by that 1 degree, it's not much at the time. It doesn't feel like anything, but a few miles later, it's a totally different, you know, different course. It's a big difference. And
100% love that.
Yeah, and just again listening to you, Henry, I relate so much. I've paid staff on my personal credit card a few times where I was, and it's hard because you want to put your staff first, because they're the ones that are, you know, really keeping it together, aren't they? You know, your staff's important. And the same, I remember about 3 or 4 months in a row, I didn't pay myself not even a penny, and it was just credit card, make sure the staff are okay. And I probably was overstaffed at the time, but it was a bit of a balance because I was just I needed them there so I could just step away, sort myself out a bit. So yeah, I totally relate. And again, when that lockdown came, I was in tears in front of the staff because I was so worried, like, how am I going to keep these guys together now? But obviously we worked it all out. And yeah, I guess I feel again, it sounds like a little bit similar, that when I've been part of a mastermind or a high level group, that really I'm like this little kid at school again, and I'm looking at the big kids that have done so great. I find it so empowering. It's so true that you do become who you surround yourself with, and it's had such a massive knock on. And again, like the learning, you're absolutely right. I guess it was a different generation, and I feel you've had that good input from your parents, as in like, do this, and they've really empowered you with some great, like a great mindset, so that when things didn't quite work out, I didn't do great at school, so and I hated it at the time, and I just felt pretty insignificant, a bit of a failure, all those horrible things. But now as I look back, I think, well, each one of them things actually made me more resilient, made me not, I'll deal with.
You learn from it all. Yeah, definitely. Hugely. Definitely. Yeah, no, I was very fortunate with my parents because they never gave me handouts. We always had a nice house, but they weren't cash rich. They had a nice house. They had businesses. My dad put a lot of money into his homes, and was always flipping properties to get the mortgage paid off. And they didn't give me handouts, but they made me work for my money, and that was a great ethos. And with the learning, you're right, everything you're learning from, every experience, you can either look at a failure as a negative, or you can look at it as a positive. What can I learn? They talk about failing forward. I've heard that a lot. And rather than failing backwards, looking at it as positive. And I was saying earlier, I think before the call, I read a book. I got given it by a guy called David, who worked for me, and he knew I liked reading, and he worked for me as a sales guy about 10 months before the business went under. And he said, here's this book, and it was Black Box Thinking. It's a fantastic book, and it's all about how failure is the key to success. And I read that as the business went under. And at that point, I went, oh, okay, so this isn't really bad. I can learn from this. This is a great learning point. And I wrote a document, what went wrong, every single thing that went wrong. I still review it now. And I'm still not doing everything perfectly from that document, but it's a constant reminder to go, don't ever go back there. What weren't you doing right? How can we improve? How can we make things better? And I think everybody, if they look at their failures in life as something that's not, a dent on their ego, a dent on themselves, a dent on their personality, and go, okay, well, I effed up. Things didn't go so well, or this has happened, but what can I do to make it better next time? It's such a strong thing for people to see that and to understand that failure isn't negative. It can be a really positive thing.
Oh, 100%. And also with the learning thing, I yourself, we go on that mastermind, it's all day, it's very intense, you get loads of stuff, and you can't implement everything in one go. But like you said before, we just today I can do this, I can focus on this, and now I've implemented that. Right, cool, we're up here, now I can implement the next thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as a previous mentor once said to me. And okay. You mean I can find out now? Thank God for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've mentioned your parents a lot. Are they your biggest inspiration, or have you got other inspirations in terms of what you've done?
Yeah, my parents, my mum, she read a book when I was younger. It was a Richard Branson book, and she read that, and she used to send me off. I mean, I think she made me walk to school on my own when I was about 7 years old, and I almost fell in a ditch, and a mum found me walking to school and took me to school, and the school phoned up and kicked right off of her. So that was huge, in the sense that, again, but I don't get lost anymore. I got lost, and I haven't got lost to this day. So it's big lessons, but I wouldn't send my 7-year-old to school now. And walking as far as it was, where it's in the middle of East Anglia. But anyway, they are a huge inspiration. And that, on the back of that, Richard Branson always inspired me, because of his kind of way that he went in and he did, like Rob Moore talks about, he's a big inspiration, but that disruptiveness, he went into different industries and went, no, we're going to do some things differently. We're Virgin, we're not going to do the same things as BA, we're going to do things differently. And I love that. So he was a huge inspiration. And then I suppose it's just, I know this is quite general, but anyone that's successful, I love seeing people that are successful. I love following them. I love people bouncing off it. I think a lot of people look at people successful and go, oh, it's all right for them, but they forget that iceberg effect. That iceberg effect up there, no one ever sees. When you go to the gym and you see that really ripped guy, you don't see the underneath, the 3 years of that he's put into it, the delaying self-gratification, the strict diet, everything. So generally, it's anyone that's successful, and I get quite emotional at people that are living their dreams. Like I'm not an emotional person when I watch films and stuff when it's really sad, but if someone's really, aspiring to be who they want to be, that gets me every time. So just success, just when things are successful. But on the flip side of that, I really want to try and help people get better at things. Part of my why, we talked about this earlier, is helping people, and I want to help homeless people. I've got a big connection in that way, because I met, when I was going through my dark times, I met people that were business owners that had become homeless, that were just like me, but they didn't have a wife like mine, who was stubborn and loyal. I better not say stubborn too many times. Loyal, committed. My parents were still around, fortunately. They were pulling me up and helping me, but some people don't have that, and they end up on the streets. And we were talking earlier about how, you surround yourself with millionaires and you become a millionaire. When you're homeless, you're surrounding yourself with homeless people. So that environment is different for everybody at every level. And part of my why is I want to try and help homeless people. I go out with a charity called Street Angels. I started it last 2 Saturdays ago, and we go out and give food and and blankets and clothes and things to people in the streets of Southampton. And it's a great cause, and I think people kind of need that help. So that sort of forms. I've gone off on a bit of tangent here, haven't I? But that kind of forms a bit of my why, is to try and help and serve. And again, talking about earlier when we were talking about material things, that they're the kind of things that are gonna help everybody. It's a better feeling than all the material things in life.
No, I think that's hugely important. I can't remember if I connected you with Julie Kent, MBE, but she's big. She does a lot for local charities, even though she's based here in Cheltenham. But once you got your podcast off the ground, or even if it's just a launch, she would probably have you on her podcast talking about. I know she's a vice president for a homeless shelter here in this area.
Amazing. Yeah, I'd love to connect.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's part of what I learned is. I like to give, and I feel I've kind of regained that control in how it should be done now. Like you said before, we're probably saying we're running around trying to help everyone, but it's getting that right balance.
It's focus, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'd love to get you back next year and see where we are with that. I feel you got that. Yeah, you're just a genuine person, Henri, and just you it, and it's commendable how you want to use that experience for the greater good, and sometimes maybe you just had to go for that because you were the person that could deal with it, to then be that mentor for the people that maybe don't know how.
I actually think that I had to go through what I went through. It was ruthless. People say it was, at the time, it was the worst year of my life, but now it's the best year of my life because I found myself. I learned more about myself, my life, business. I learned more in that 1 year about business than I did 10 years before that. So I had to go through it, and I'm a better person for it. So
yeah, there we go. Fist bump for that.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask what your biggest win in the last 12 months, but I think you've just pretty much said it there, right?
Well, the biggest win now is that we had to sell our family home a year ago, and we're just waiting for the final sign off on our mortgage to get back on the property ladder. So, which is a nicer house than we had before. So that's huge. It's massive for my family because taking our family home away was the most heartbreaking thing of it all. So that is, to have the year we had, and to be, when I said to my wife, don't worry, we'll be back on the property ladder in 12 to 18 months, that was my really positive side coming out. And I wasn't expecting it. I thought maybe 2 years, 2.5 years, to be a year on and be buying a house again. That is huge. So that is the biggest win. And now I got
to interrupt. But literally, my hairs are stood up as you're saying it. That's brilliant. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And I've now got 4 businesses. So I've gone from 1 to 4. So it's just spinning plates. We were talking earlier, spinning plates, but I've got a great team around me and great support. So things are going in the right direction. But again, it's all because of the commitment, the work ethic, and the learning and the constant developing.
So are these businesses you started from scratch, or have you acquired them?
So we've got the tree surgery business. We've got Edified Properties, which is we're buying property and refinancing, refurbishing, refinancing. We've got Edify Service Accommodation, where we're doing service accommodation units in Southampton. And then I've bought the franchise for Progressive Property PPN Southampton, start a monthly property networking meet. So yeah, three from scratch. One I've bought the franchise for, but I don't think I could have done another one from scratch with everything going on. So I was quite happy to take a franchise on that. So yeah, and the whole plan is to get all these business systemized so that I can pull away from it more, so I can then help homeless people. I want to be able to help kids when they leave school, because when I left school, and I say I failed on with GCSEs, I got told to go and be a customer service advisor. No one was telling me at that point, look, Henri, you might have failed all your GCSEs, and we have been telling you for your whole life that these are the most important things, and if you don't do well in them, you're going to be you're going to struggle in life. But there are other options. You can go and learn about business. You can learn about things that you're passionate about, and I kind of want to help people coming out of school, or some influence. I don't know how, but yeah, there's something there, and be able to try and inspire some kids to go and not you know, maybe go and do what I did and go and work for lots of companies and then stumble across it eventually, we might be able to help the next generation of entrepreneurs, which is what I think we need in this day and age, is young people thinking about that in that kind of way. And they're going to be blowing our minds with digital stuff, right? You know, they're going to be creating the next apps and Snapchats and all these kind of things. So yeah, that's kind of
I think we do. Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think, you know, unless someone wants to go on to becoming a doctor, but you know, that may not work out, and even with that, things change anyway. So I think you can really create and shape your own destiny and future. There's probably never been a better time to do it, really. My son's into his gaming, and one's into gaming, one's into gaming and YouTube and all sorts. And it's like, okay, let's crack on, keep doing that. Make me some stuff. Let's encourage it. And yes, they can find a way. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. I remember I had no idea what I wanted to do, and okay, I'll do engineering. But I guess even from working in a shop, I think those things helped me though. I think that experience helped for some of the similar reasons you might have said off camera, but same reasons. But yeah, it's more having that open mind that, you know what, I've got some experience here. This isn't for me. I can step out of here and I can do, you know, something else. And
definitely, yeah. No, I learned sales. I learned customer service. You know, I learned things that when I got into tree surgery, you know, not every tree surgeon, lots of tree surgeons go straight from school into tree surgery. I mean, not saying they're not very good at customer service and sales, but Barclays Bank put me through thousands of pounds worth of sales and customer service training. So that was great, and it was good. And again, you know, it was all experience that helped get me to where I got to.
Yeah, happy days. So I guess if you could go back to your younger self then, because since we're on this, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
Carry on learning. Carry on learning. Soak up as much information as you can. Read as many books as you can. You know, I read a book a week if I can. I'm on Arnold Schwarzenegger at the moment, his autobiography. That's taken me longer than a week. It's huge. But I would say just keep learning and keep developing and have an open mindset.
No, that's perfect. Great advice. And if you don't like reading, there's audio books, and if you can't,
exactly,
you can get a book down into 15 seconds. 15 minutes. Sorry, not 15 seconds. That'd be quick, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you got YouTube. You know, everything's on YouTube. You can learn how to do anything on YouTube. But yeah, whatever it is, whichever way you want to learn, you know, everyone's different. Just suck it up, especially when you've got a nice young spongy brain.
Yeah, definitely. When you're younger, it's a lot easier. Yeah. Did you find though it was easier? I found learning easier because it was my. Obviously, I took on I had my business, so there would have been no way I would have got my head around marketing and everything else. But I felt when it was mine, I really wanted it to, you know, serve and you know, do what.
Yeah, I think you've got to be passionate about what you're learning. I think if you're learning, like, there's some books I read and I have to put them down because I get caught away through it and I'm like, this isn't going in. And to be honest with you, I don't, you know, this isn't really floating my boat. And I think if you're not passionate about it, then, you know, you need to have passion to want to learn. It's got to be something that interests you. You know, I've been on certain courses and you sit there and you're yawning your way through it. You know, property courses now, I love property and it just goes in. I just want more. Yeah. But you've got to be passionate about it. And there's another good book by Dan Sullivan, which is Who Not How, which is a great book. And he talks about when you think about how you want to do something, you don't think about how you're going to do it. You can think about who. So I was trying to read last year a book about SEO, and I had bought 2 SEO books. And I read them both, or I read half of one of the other. And I realized at that point, I don't need to do SEO myself. I need to find who's going to do SEO for me. Yeah. And it's also trying to be that like that. Think about, you know, you can't learn everything, but try and concentrate on the passionate things that make you tick. Because when you do, you read a book and you read it in no time at all.
Yeah, again, great advice, Henry. Thank you so much. Well, listen, I really enjoyed speaking to you. I would love for you to come back on. I can't wait to see you get coaching.
Thank you. I really want to. I want to help people. So, and thank you for having me on. This has been great. So it's always good to talk.
No, my pleasure. No, there's a warmth about you, Henry, and you've got so much empathy. And again, when I first met you in the breakout room for the mastermind, you gave so much just in that bit. I think you might have nearly had me in tears, but anyway.
Thank you for your time and your kind words, and I'll definitely be back, and I'll definitely want to keep sharing my story. So yeah, thank you.
All right. If anyone did want to get in contact with you, Henry, are they okay to private message you, or is it best to go through the links I put in the copy in the comments?
Yeah, just private message me through Facebook. Facebook's better than LinkedIn. I have my messenger more up on that. So or just go through the websites, whichever's easiest for people.
Brilliant. Thank you everyone for watching. Henry, I'll speak to you in 2 seconds once we come off air.
Cool.
We'll see you all next week. Enjoy this lovely, lovely weather. Find some ice. Maybe don't be careful jumping in water. Of course, there's been a few casualties. That's the word I was looking for. All right, I'm gonna shut up now. Peace. Peace, love. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.